You think the Jews killed Gaddafi as well?
I guess, Israel. I think that they have way too much control in our government, and I think it is not coincidence that everybody that's been critical of Israel has, either been overthrown.
Oh boy, put your saddle on, folks, because we're about to ride straight into the wild world of politics. Hold on tight, because this one's going to be bumpy. We continue on with Piers exchanging blows with Dan in this part 2. We witness an unfiltered clash between two personalities with polarizing worldviews. Dan dives headfirst into controversial claims about Israel's influence, media control, and his views on Jewish supremacy, while Piers Morgan pushes back, challenging Dan's sweeping generalizations and labeling many of his statements as blatant anti-Semitic. This exchange isn't just a debate, it's a galactical war of ideology. With Dan standing firm against what he perceives as woke narratives and corruption, Piers vividly defends his stance, occasionally slipping into the moral outrage. Dan's bold, unrelenting approach dominates the conversation, leaving Piers scrambling for footwork.
Like every single person that's been critical of Israel has either been killed or thrown out of power, and I don't think that is a coincidence. The reason we fought a lot of these wars is because of Israel. Israel lied to us. They told us that there was weapons of mass destruction. We fought many wars on their behalf, so their influence cannot be, disputed. And the people that we continuously fight just happen to be their natural enemies, and they have influence on what we do. And that's my biggest issue. That's actually one of the reasons why I kind of started marching down this path, is because I see how much control Israel has over our government, and it's not healthy. And I see our politicians acting on behalf of Israel instead of on behalf of what is best for the United States. And that is, as a veteran, where I really have fucking, huge problems with this.
Let's hit pause here real quick. Dan wastes no time diving into conspiracy-heavy waters, making sweeping claims about Israel's control and its role in shaping U.S. foreign policy. While Dan is consistent in linking global conflicts to Israel's influence, his reliance on conjecture weakens the argument. He straddles the line between provocative truth seeker and unapologetic provocateur. What's striking here is Piers' approaching. He tries to corner Dan into backpedaling, but Dan's unapologetic, response highlights his indifference to convention. It's a gutsy, if reckless, way to open the discussion. But can he back it up?
Oh, I'm sure he did, but when you say that what was it you said? That Jewish people said there were weapons of mass destruction. It was President Bush. He's not Jewish. It was Colin Powell. He wasn't Jewish, as far as I'm aware. What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Well, you're talking about 0.2% of the population. So obviously every single person in there is not Jewish, but it is benefiting Jewish interests, and we are operating on behalf of Israel. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying all of our politicians are Jewish, obviously, but what I am saying is that Israel has dirt and blackmail on our politicians. That's the only way to explain why they put the interests of Israel above our countries, and you see that. Look, I truly believe that Epstein Island was a Mossad operation, and they have dirt on our politicians, and they've done plenty of these, and that is why they control our country. Explain it out. Why else would our country be doing everything in Israel's benefit to our own detriment? Israel doesn't do anything for us. Why would we be doing that?
But we know why America, and the UK for that matter, Tony Blair, because I spoke to him about it at length at the time, we know why they went to war with Saddam Hussein in 2003. They went because they believed he had weapons of mass destruction. They were the ones who argued it. None of the senior people that argued it for America or the UK, in terms of Tony Blair, George Bush, Colin Powell, were Jewish. This idea that somehow Israel was orchestrating that war, I think, is completely nonsensical. My brother fought in that war for the British Army. He wasn't ordered into that war by Israel. It was a decision taken by George Bush and Tony Blair. It just seems to me that when people have accused you, if they have, of being anti-Semitic, this is the reason why. It's because you look everywhere for a reason to blame Israel for absolutely everything, even when there's no evidence that it was Israel involved in the actual orders that were taken. There is no evidence that Israel ordered the Iraq war. It was taken by George Bush's administration with the help of people like Tony Blair.
Well, we went there because Netanyahu testified in front of Congress that they had weapons of mass destruction, which was a total lie, and it was a lie to benefit Israel because that was an enemy of Israel. So what I'm saying is they're the beneficiary of what we are doing, and it's not in the best interest of the United States. So clearly they've got control over our politicians.
Yeah, but to be clear again, though,
I'm not saying our politicians are Jewish. I'm saying our politicians are doing what they're telling them to do.
Right. Well, that's slightly different to what you did say. And you said on Patrick Bet-David's podcast as well, they play the victim card so effing much about Jewish people. I mean, do you not understand why Jewish people might feel a sense of victimhood, given that 6 million of them were killed in World War II by a genocidal monster in the Holocaust? Do you not understand why that might make Jewish people feel that, yes, they have indeed been victims?
Yeah, I mean, that figure's been revised, but I believe that Jewish supremacy is the greatest threat to America, and I think it's the greatest threat to the world today. I truly believe that.
What do you mean the figure's been revised? What do you mean?
Well, they said that it was 4 million that died in Auschwitz, and then they said it was down to 1 million, so they've revised the figure.
Well, how many people? How many people do you think were killed in the Holocaust?
271,000 that died in Auschwitz.
How many do you think were killed in the Holocaust?
I don't know, but I would bet my entire net worth that it was under 6 million.
Again, I simply ask you, Dan, what's the motivation for making claims like that? What do you stand to gain by trying to diminish what happened in World War II?
I'm just answering your question. I mean, I'm a gambler, so if I think that something is a low probability, then I would bet on it. And I don't know for a fact, but the evidence all says that it was less than 6 million. I mean, just the mathematics don't work. Like, you can't cremate that many bodies. Like, the whole gas chamber thing, it's a very ineffective way to kill people. So when people have researched this and they've done the due diligence, they said it's mathematically impossible.
You see, I'm sorry, but I just find that unbelievably offensive, and I'm not even Jewish. Again, there is clear evidence that 6 million people, almost predominantly Jewish, were killed in the Holocaust. 12 million were killed by the Nazis in total. They were a genocidal monstrosity of the Nazis who wanted to eliminate the Jewish people, and they tried extremely hard to do that.
You said 12 million were killed?
The Nazis killed 12 million people in World War II. 6 million were killed in 6 million were killed in the Holocaust. Or do you not believe that either?
Okay. I mean, Jews have killed far more Christians. Well, Jews have killed let's just accept the 6 million figure. Jews have killed far more Christians than that. I mean, it's not even close. If you look at the Bolshevik genocide, you look at the Holodomor, I mean, they've killed way more Christians. I mean, they basically invented the genocide. So, they denied the Armenian genocide. Israel denies that. They've lobbied the U.S. to deny that. I'm Armenian. They killed half of my people. So, and I'm not offended by that. If somebody questions that, it's not some crazy thing. I mean, Israel denies the Armenian Holocaust. Okay.
It sounds to me, Dan, like you do actually hate Jewish people.
Piers goes on the offense, accusing Dan of outright anti-Semitism. This is a pivotal shift from debating policies and influence to labeling Dan's rhetoric as hate speech. While Piers frames himself as a defender of historical accuracy and moral decency, his tone grows increasingly moralistic, verging on performative. Meanwhile, Dan doubles down, introducing Holocaust revisionist claims and critiques of the Talmud. These statements are as incendiary as they are poorly substantiated, providing Piers with an easy moral high ground. Still, Dan's consistency in hammering home is somewhat distressed of Israeli influence, keeping him on massage for better or worse.
No, I believe that Jewish supremacy is the greatest threat to the world today. I look at what they're doing in the media. They're pushing this transgender nonsense. I mean, and they did it in Germany. The first transgender clinic was opened by a Jewish guy. And I don't like this perversion pushed on our children. I don't like the fact that 9-year-olds are reading about homosexual acts. I don't like that drag queens are reading them in schools. I don't like that Kamala Harris wants to pay for sex changes in prison so that men can turn into women and women can turn into men. And I don't like the fact that he's putting in, men into women's prisons, male rapists into women's prisons because they identify as women. I mean, it's just nonsense. I don't like, men beating up women in boxing and sports. I think it's all nonsense. And I think it's leading to a degradation of moral fiber. And if left unchecked, I think it's going to ruin the world.
But again, you're blaming Jewish people. Why?
Because they're pushing this.
What do you mean they're pushing it? What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, they're controlling the media. I mean, the DEI is being pushed by BlackRock. BlackRock's execs are all Jewish. You look at where this is coming from. It's not a surprise.
Dan,
all the Disney execs are Jewish.
Dan,
They're pushing it on children.
Right. Do you accept, Dan, that you are just blatantly anti-Semitic?
Look, I have an issue with that term. I mean, I think the real Semites are the Palestinians. I mean, the DNA tests that they've done on the Israelis that are living over there, they're Eastern European Ashkenazi Jews. I don't even think they're actual Semites. They don't have ancient Hebrew DNA, which is why DNA testing is illegal in Israel.
I mean, you're literally denying their existence now. I mean, you are just a brazen anti-Semite, aren't you? You hate Jewish people. You hate Israel. You hate the state of Israel, its government, everything about it. You're blaming them you blamed them in this interview for literally absolutely everything.
When you say, well, I think most of the problems today is caused by Jewish supremacy. I believe that.
I'm honestly gobsmacked that you would say all this publicly, given what a high profile you have.
Yeah, I mean, it is not a it's not a popular opinion for somebody that cares about money and cares about not being canceled. I mean, that's the problem, is you can say whatever you want against Muslims. You can be super anti-Muslim. You can talk about them and nobody cares. But if you say anything about Jewish people, you get canceled. They look what they did to Kanye. I mean, so why are they such a protected class? Let me ask you that.
I don't think they are. I think they're a class that get targeted by people like you, and indeed by Kanye, who spewed horrible anti-Semitic nonsense. But yours, it seems to me, to be more insidious, because you're literally blaming.
So you literally blaming. With respect, let me finish. Not the other way around.
You're literally blaming Jewish people for almost everything that's happened that you don't like in the world. That is the purest personification of anti-Semitism right there. That's what it is.
Well, when you have a religion that promotes supremacy, when you have a religion that says that you are better than other people, and when you have a religion that says it's okay to steal from other people as long as they're not Jewish, when you have a religion that says it's okay to rape people that aren't Jewish, when you have a religion that talks about having sex with, kids that are under 3 years old, when you have a religion that promotes these things and promotes supremacy, I think you're going to have problems. And you see that in Israel. Israel is a manifestation of that religion. And I think that religion is, it's terrible. I don't believe in white supremacy. I don't believe in Jewish supremacy. I don't believe in supremacy at all. And right now, I think you have massive Jewish supremacy.
You sound like a Nazi.
Piers escalates the rhetoric to its breaking point, likening Dan's argument to Nazi propaganda. This is where Piers' strategy falters. As he leans on emotional appeals rather than dismantling Dan's argument sympathetically, Dan, for his part, sidesteps the comparison by reiterating his opposition to supremacy of any kind. Here's the irony. Piers invokes the ultimate historical evil, Nazism, to discredit Dan. But this move risks alienating viewers who perceive it as overkill. Dan, despite his incendiary remarks, remains calm, which plays to his advantage in terms of optics.
I mean, why do you say that?
That's literally what Nazis would have said in World War II. They would have literally articulated their hatred of Jewish people and the reasons why in exactly the way you've just done.
I don't have a hatred for Jewish people.
You do?
I don't like a religion that says that they're better than other people. And what's that?
Well, you do. You obviously do. It's blatant. No one watching this will draw any other conclusion. I'm staggered about how brazen you've been.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't like it when people think they're better than other people. And you see that in Israel, and they're acting like that, and they're treating Palestinians like second-class citizens. They're treating them like subhuman beasts, and it sells that in their Talmud. So it says if you are not a Jew, that you are basically subhuman. And I don't think that Judaism and Christianity go hand in hand. I mean, they believe that Jesus is in hell burning in human shit, and they believe that the Virgin Mary is a whore. So I don't think those are two religions that really intersect very well. But, we've been programmed that they do, and we've been programmed that it's okay and that Jews are the chosen people, and I just disagree with that. I think everybody's equal.
Do you even comprehend how this interview is going to play out when it airs?
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be bad. But, my opinion is not politically correct, but I believe that is the truth.
You're living in Qatar now.
Well, that's where I'm at right now. I'm not living here, but visiting.
Right. Is it the case that you feel safer to spew this kind of stuff from Qatar than you would spewing it in the United States?
Well, I mean, I've had a lot of Jewish people attack me since I started standing up in support of Palestine. When I started saying things that were against Israel, I found that I had my Jewish business manager tried to extort me. I had lawyers do things that were illegal, and I found a lot of just hatred from the Jewish community because I was speaking out against a genocide, and that really opened my eyes to what's going on.
You know why Jewish
like I
people...
said, rarely is it the case that people on the right side of history are the ones that are trying to silence people.
Yeah, the reason Jewish people may dislike you is because of your obvious hatred for them and everything they stand for. I mean, you've literally spent the last 20 minutes on an anti-Semitic rant that makes Kanye look like a choir boy. I'm staggered, but also bemused as to what you think you'll gain from this, other than you're just laying bare your anti-Semitism for everyone to see.
I don't think I'm going to gain anything. I think it'll be horrible for me, but it's what I believe.
This is where Dan pivots into martyr mode, presenting himself as a lone truth teller, standing against cancel culture and societal taboos. This statement is as strategic as it is self-serving. Dan knows the cost of such remarks, but positions himself as a man of conviction, which resonates with audience fatigued by political correctness. Meanwhile, Piers struggles to land a decisive counterpunch, retrieving to a moral outrage rather than addressing Dan's claims point by point. Dan's calculated vulnerability keeps him in spotlight, even as Piers paints him as irredeemable.
I don't think that Jews like Christians, and you see it when they killed them during the Holodomor, the Bolshevik genocide. I mean, the Bolsheviks. The leadership was 84% Jewish, and they were just mass killing Christians, and nobody talks about that.
Let me just ask you one more time. Let me just ask you one more time, to be honest.
History books don't cover that.
Right, let me just ask you one more time, just for clarity. I think you should be honest. But do you hate Jewish people?
No, I don't.
Then why do you spew such hatred about them?
Well, I don't like what they've done. I don't like what their religion preaches. I don't like what's going on in Israel. I don't like their influence over our government. So,
What do you like about Jewish people?
I mean, I would say on average, they're more intelligent.
That's it?
I mean, I don't have too many. I mean, look, there's 2 billion Muslims, but everybody wants to, promote this anti-Muslim, this hatred for Muslim, like they're all, these terrorists. And I think the Israelis are the terrorists. I think they are the ones perpetuating the big acts of terrorism. And, nobody wants to talk about that.
And what do you say to Jewish people who may watch this and be utterly horrified by what they're hearing?
They can be horrified. I mean, I was horrified to find that they mass murdered Christians. I was horrified to learn the things that they teach in the Talmud. I was horrified that they think that Jesus is burning in shit in hell. I was horrified that they think that the Virgin Mary is a whore. I was horrified to learn that they think it's okay to steal from Gentiles. I was horrified to hear that there's, 2 sets of justice. I was horrified to find out that they think it's okay to, gang rape Palestinian prisoners. I was horrified about all those things. I'm horrified that we're funding a genocide right now. So they can be horrified.
Dan Bilzerian.
Dan comes out of this exchange as both the villain and the hero, depending on your perspective. His arguments are provocative, unyielding, and at times poorly substantiated, but his unapologetic delivery and commitment to his beliefs gives him the edge in terms of sheer dominance. Piers, while passionate, falls back on moralistic indignation, which risks alienating viewers looking for a balanced debate. This wasn't just an exchange, it was a battle, and Dan's refusal to play by conventional rules left Piers on the defensive more often than not. Whether you agree with him or not, you can't deny that Dan knows how to keep the heat on. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video to keep the conversation going and ensure you don't miss what's coming next. Until then, keep questioning, keep debating, and keep watching until you hit the bullseye. Bye for now.